Yeah.
And there's more,
Yeah.
because obviously we know instinctively, you know?
Yeah, and one of the biggest issues is, who will I be if I change? I mean, that was huge. And I basically had to come to the point where I was like, I would rather change and not know who I am and be freaked out than live Groundhog Day, like I was saying, emotional Groundhog Day until I'm 80. And that was the choice, in my, whether that's a real choice or not, you know, or whether it would have been that bad, I don't know, but it felt that way at the time, and I said either this or this. And I said, okay, I'm gonna try anything. And so little did I know that I'd already heard about the thing that was going to be the right thing, and it was going to be a lot easier than I thought.
Well, I like that metaphor. And I'm curious, when did you hear the interview initially with Bruce?
You know, 3 years ago, over 3 years ago. Yeah.
I don't suppose it was a News for the Soul interview.
It wasn't. It was something more local within Oregon.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wow, that would have been really weird. But you never know.
Yeah,
and how the pain and terror is always the motivator. That's why I always ask. You know, whenever we're talking to new people, it's not about, you know, floating down on our guru cloud from heaven playing our lute, you know. We've all, you know, I mean, the horror of the mainstream focus was what started News for the Soul. I mean, I was just also a journalist and horrified and not being able to articulate what we learn later as we discover, right? But, I mean, with what you do, for example, I've had many conversations over the years with James Ray, who, you know, years before The Secret came out, we've talked about Huna a lot and energetic works and that, you know, some of our biggest work in this life and all of them, if we have more of them, is clearing out the crap that's below the surface, the black bags that they could talk about in Huna or whatever your belief system is, you know, that's actually the biggest work. It's the area that you've ended up working in. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's a critical thing as far as...
I always was a radical.
Yeah,
now
I can relate.
I'm more of a radical. Actually, you know, doing what I do now is really more the work than I was doing before. I mean, I think I was just learning with the protesting and stuff that I was doing. I think it was just learning that that's not the way. It was the best intentions, but just learning that it's like I didn't realize how deep I had to be real before I could put out peace. You know, I didn't realize how deep my own peace had to be before I could really be a part of that. And I'm still in the process, of course. You know, it's constant, but yeah, we think we can just kind of put our toe in, or I like the idea of peace or something like that. But yeah, this is the work, and I really feel like offering it to other people then, and constantly doing my own work is, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm on the path like I never did before.
So where did you start once you started discovering the different ways of methods of clearing? Which method, like EFT or Psych Care or whatever, what did you start working in first?
I learned EFT first, and I just sort of learned it at a little workshop, and I didn't really understand how to use it, and it seemed really strange, but I thought, okay, it's free, and so I just started doing it, and I got little changes, but I would stop after a couple minutes because I didn't know if it was working, and I didn't know if I was looking stupid, and you know, and within a couple weeks I started feeling this new, and like I said, I was very observant of my internal process because I decided that was where I was putting my energy, and I felt this internal alignment that I hadn't felt before, like there was a platform, like there was an energetic platform that I was standing on. And I thought, where the heck did this come from? And then I realized the EFT that I was doing. And I wasn't doing it with that intention. I was just trying it out. And I said, oh, wow, this is what I've been looking for. And then I, you know, started to go to a group and whatnot. And it was probably only a month until I learned Psych K. And then I was just doing both of them. You know, one of the big issues that came up was related to my mother and growing up without her after the age of 5. just all the abandonment stuff and the self-esteem and in some ways having to grow up too early and that kind of stuff. And the more I healed that, the more I felt inspired, like I could help people like me heal this. And so that became one of my specialties, was the motherless daughter, and the fact that when I was in my early 20s and I was starting to come to terms with all that stuff and starting to realize how affected I had been by that, as well as my mom came back when I was about 19 or 20, or sort of wanted to have a relationship with my sister and I again. Anyway, we were trying to do all this healing, and so I was looking around for books and online blogs and whatever, and there was one book called Motherless Daughters. It's by Hope Adelman. I recommend it to anybody who's interested. But it only talks about women whose mothers had died, and that's the only book I ever found. When I get on the internet and I type that in, I only found that book. I didn't find anybody talking about it. It's like nobody's talking about this. Where do I find other people like me? And it was a pretty lonely experience. And so, when I started healing from that and using the EFT individually, like personally, I would use EFT and Psyche, and I also did some sessions about stuff related to that. I started to realize I can heal deeply. It's not just, I don't just feel better in the moment, or I don't feel just a little bit better. And so that was 3 years ago, like I said. And now, I was thinking, and I don't even really identify myself with the idea of being a motherless daughter, like that feeling. It's hard to express, but it's not part of my identity, like this happened and I kind of fit in this box and I can't get outside this box. I felt that way for a long time. But
you've cleared it on deeper levels.
Yeah, like the feeling level, not just, okay, I decided not to. And I didn't think that was possible. I thought that was who I was. And one of the great things about EFT and Psyche, it's really scary for people often to change. And that's one thing that comes up in sessions a lot. Who will I be? Who will I be if I'm not a victim of what so-and-so did? Who will I be if I lose the weight? Who will I be if I can actually start that business that I feel like I can't do? And, anything that you can clear with EFT or that you can shift with Psyche isn't who you are. And I think part of the process of doing the healing is also a realization of what you really are, layer after layer of like, oh, I thought that I was that, feeling that I was unwanted by my peers, or I thought I was that feeling that my mother didn't love me or something. We think we are these things, and then when they're cleared, we realize, wow, I'm still here, and I feel actually more connected to myself than I did before. And so I really think that there's a lot of spiritual, these tools are extremely practical. I started doing them because they worked, and I felt better. But I think there's a spiritual learning that comes along as well that wasn't really expected, but is just, wow.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're working on a deeper level, consciousness, in consciousness,
wow.
right? Because, you're talking about accessing your authentic self as opposed to the labels of things that happen to you that, on a less conscious way of living, we identify with those labels and think that's who we are, right? So you're talking about getting into the depths, and which, of course, you can't not bring up spirituality if you're going deeper than beyond the surface of, awareness. Awareness 101, we're going past that. But, that's why we talk about these things a lot on this show, because we always are delving into the subconscious, meaning, even beyond what we're identifying consciously with, right? So that's why I was so excited about the work that you're doing. Before we get into the nitty-gritties and break it down as far as how the two methodologies work, let's talk about the fundamentals a little more about what you discovered as far as the motherless daughters did I say that right? I've been mentioning it this week, and I kept saying it backwards. So the daughterless mothers. No, the other way. Is it only gender relevant, like